that great big hump behind me is the Wansdyke, and we're about a mile from the end of the Wansdyke as it enters Savernake Forest. And I was wandering around these woods not so, a few days ago, clambering over barbed wire and so on. Incidentally, barbed wire on public footpaths, and right at the end, just as it was getting dark, I discovered this bit, which is some of the best earthwork that isn't on the downs near Avebury. And well, we're about 3 miles from those downs here. Anyway, so I thought I'd come over and have another go with a couple of extra hours of daylight. For those who've never heard of it, the Wansdyke is the modern version of Woden's Dyke. Woden was anglo-saxon god, probably. We can talk about that at some point. And it's either late 5th or 6th century or 8th or 9th century, built either, can you hear that bird of prey? Anyway, yes, respectively, so that's either the Romanised British defending themselves against Anglo-Saxon incursions, or the Wessex Anglo-Saxons defending themselves against Mercian Anglo-Saxons from the Midlands. Oh my God. It's a deer. Yes, what was I saying? Yes, Romanised Britons, Roman citizens with Celtic overtones, Celtic names, Christianity, some of whom might have been secretly or even not so secretly pagan. That's a different story. And they invited in, this is one of the stories, they invited in Hengist and Horsa, the Anglo-Saxon heroes, names of which both mean horse. And interestingly enough, and they were invited in to keep other Anglo-Saxons and the Picts and the Irish out of Britain. And what they did instead was rampage through the country, taking what they wanted. And anyway, so that's one reason why this was built, possibly. There is some Roman, some evidence that it's post-Rome, just after the Romans left, the Roman army left, and the British people, though Gildas calls us rebellious and selfish and foolish and all the rest of it, which I guess if you invite your enemies in, they people who have a reputation for causing havoc around them, then yeah, they probably were foolish. But courageous in rebellion, but cowardly when confronting enemies of the state. So this wall and ditch was built for them to, it must have been quite harrowing for them, their civilization coming to an end, pushed this far back. The Anglo-Saxons entered, places like Kent, and we're in Wiltshire. And so So anyway, yeah, so that's one theory. The another theory, this was built to keep the Mercians out, and after, you know, I don't know the exact dates, but this would have been the northern border of Wiltshire as it enters the Midlands, but after a great big battle, the northern border of Wiltshire becomes way up, you know, miles away from here, north of here. But it probably is post-Roman, but let's not, you know, it's not 100% conclusive. Anyway, so that's the background. So I tend to favour the Anglo-Saxon invasion theory, mostly because that's what I'm particularly interested in. I'm interested in the what it takes for a civilization to fall. I think civilization is very fragile. Some people don't care about civilization. I do make the distinction between, I think Anglo-Saxon culture, pagan Anglo-Saxon culture was a beautiful culture. It was a culture with some beautiful artifacts, but a civilization I don't believe it to be. Whereas the Romanized, regardless of its barbarity, the overstretch of the state, and its weakness, read Gibbon, you know, nonetheless, his weakness towards the end. Nonetheless, it was a civilization. It took a long time to get widespread literacy back, and that was thanks to Roman culture. I mean, when the Anglo-Saxons became Christian, I'm not pro-Christian in this story, but when the Anglo-Saxons become Christian, they set up monasteries, minsters and so on, where people start copying books, and so people start teaching in schools, and then there's then limits to barbarity, but we have this sort of now if I was one of these dark individuals on the dark as in bad, one of these bad individuals that enjoy Germanic culture, the glorification of Wagner and all the rest on the internet, and have my top button done right up like that. You know, I've already got a Mussolini haircut. The Anglo-Saxons weren't Vikings. They weren't Scandinavian. They did, this is called the Wansdyke, named after Woden, which is a cognate of Othin, the Viking Othin. And the ancestor of that word was probably something like Wodenaz or something like that. But they weren't Vikings. So all of this, so there's a lot of comparative religion stuff goes on. We know very little about Anglo-Saxon religion, but there were more important deities for the Anglo-Saxons, for the pagan Anglo-Saxons, deities like Ing, which is probably related to some form to Frey. He believes in peace, prosperity, and enjoying yourself. It doesn't sound like your Viking stroke fascist glorification of, toxic masculinity. See, I've got my top button undone. Fancy wearing a shirt right to, button to the top without a tie. I just don't, and it's clearly there's something wrong with you. But anyway, it's getting very interesting. Let me just show you this and I'll carry on ranting. Bingo. See, nobody's heard of these gods and goddesses. Easter, Eostra. So you know, bunny rabbits and fertility, you know, happiness, the rebirth of the sun in spring, you know. And what could be more happy and non-toxically masculine than that? But there's a gateway of some sort there, don't there? So I'm stood on the Wansdyke, and just to the right on the horizon you can see it continuing slightly to the right, and it carries on. You can see in the far distance, hopefully, that's Morgan's Hill in the far distance. And it goes to those radio towers there and keeps going, continuing the view. We get Silbury Hill. There's Silbury Hill there, and beyond it somewhere, difficult to see, is the village of Avebury where the stone circle is. That there is West Kellet Long Barrow. There is no connection between the Wansdyke and that. In fact, the way that the Wansdyke is set up suggests they just don't care about this sacred landscape here. And in fact, there's probably no connection. There's connection within geography. There's no real connection between context and time. But between a lot of the things that are in this landscape, I do not belong to the. I was very disappointed to find out that Ian Sinclair on one of his videos was banging on about ley lines. There is no connection. It's all, if you scatter a load of dots on a piece of paper, you will be able to draw straight lines. It's only time and space that connect these things. The rest of it's our imaginations, I guess, and it's wrong, really. Those woods along there are the West Woods. That's where the Sarsen stones for Stonehenge come from, and that's where I was on the last video.